Welcome to a very special Chamber on Tap. My guest today is Danielle Robson, owner of many things, family person, community member. My name is Evan Drisner. I'm the host of Chamber on Tap. We are in the studios of Shaw Cable. That's how important this guest was to us. We wanted to cut to the chase and get her in the studio. So Danielle, thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks for having me again.
Hey, no problem.
Maybe the second time will be better.
Yeah, I'm hoping to, because I really bombed the first one. That's why you haven't seen the first one. It was terrible. So Danielle, why don't you, we're going to go through your whole story. I know that you're born and raised in a small town, Saskatchewan, right?
Yeah, pretty small.
So what town did you grow up in?
Priestville, Saskatchewan.
Priestville, Saskatchewan. Yeah. So then you graduated from high school, and what happened? You left?
Got the hell out of there.
Yeah, you moved to...
To say it nicely.
So, you were hoping to take law, right? That's how it started?
Yes, I always wanted to be a lawyer, so I thought I'd go somewhere, go to school, get a good education, you know, the whole 9 yards.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you graduate, you go to university, you're 19 years old, and I know that you bought your first Tim Hortons at 19, but how does a 19-year-old get to that? Because that's incredible to think that a 19-year-old is not only working full-time, but owning a business. So how did that happen?
Well, when I went to university in Edmonton, Camrose, Alberta, but, I always say Edmonton, so I don't have to explain. My best friend at the time, her parents owned 8 Tim Hortons in Edmonton, and one summer, my dad he said if I want to stay in Camrose, I had to pay my own rent, so I needed jobs, lots of jobs. And so I worked for her dad, and I counted tills, and I just kind of helped out. And then the following semester, my dad came down to visit us, my mom and dad, and Dale Ranke, the gentleman's name, said, you should just look into this. I think she'd be really good at it. And my dad and me talked. We said, yeah, sure, let's just apply anywhere in Western Canada. We'll take anything, basically. Yeah. And literally 3 weeks later, we had a phone call for a restaurant in Saskatoon that worked out really good, obviously.
So as a 19-year-old, what are you thinking at this point? Do you even know what you're getting yourself into? So this would have been 2003-ish, right?
It would have been, I guess February of 2003.
So how was the Tim Hortons franchise at that point? Right now we know it's everywhere, it's growing, it's constantly branding itself. But in 2003, what were you jumping onto? Was it as established, or was it still in pretty big growth mode?
It was just really starting to take off in the West at that time. Okay. So, I think it was already really established in the East, but in the West it was just starting to take off. And I think it was a really good time. The timing was perfect. It was a fluke, honestly. I still don't really know who takes that on, but anyway.
Well, that's what I can't imagine, a 19-year-old. Most viewers were 19 at one point. How did you not only commit to a full-time job, but also commit to running the operation and the pay and the staff?
What pay?
And well, paying your staff. Right? How does a 19-year-old navigate through that? What were some of the bumps? What were some of the issues looking back going, how did I get through this?
If you were to ask me to go back in time and do it all over again, the answer would be heck no. But when you were, I was young, I thought I knew everything. I was going to just go in there. It was going to be no problem. But I got a swift kick in the butt the first couple of weeks. But yeah, it was hard. It was a lot of work. I remember my very first payroll was July 1st stat. I had never done a payroll in my life. I didn't even know how to pay. I got paid under the table half my jobs, right? Small town Saskatchewan. And yeah, I think the labor board probably called me 20 times after that first payroll because it was such a disaster. I had no clue what I was doing.
And how are you responding to that? As a 19-year-old, if someone's calling me that seems like they're important, I would be having a stress attack. How are you coping with this? Not only learning how to be the business owner and kind of navigate through that, but also be the leader with staff and hiring and people calling in sick. How did you navigate that for your first little bit?
For me, it was fun, honestly. I thought it was a challenge. I am very competitive, so everything I do, I like to be the best. And so it was just about learning. And every time that I made a mistake, I was like, okay, I'm never going to do that again. So I need to learn. And I remember I met with the labor board, and I remember like they went through everything with me, and I was like, I'm never gonna make this mistake again. I'm never gonna get a call from you again. And you just, yeah, you figure every day you learn something, and every day you learn not to do that.
Yeah, that's
the next day. So yeah, I don't know how I did it, to be honest with you.
Like, would you look back and go, you know what, I actually, without even realizing, I had kind of a process that helped me navigate it, where I learned a lesson, drew it down so I would avoid it going forward? Or has it always kind of been kind of free-spirited, kind of, we'll tackle it as it comes?
Yeah, I'm a fly from the seat of my pants. I just took it as it came, and sometimes you spend all day just putting out fires. The next day, it was like smooth sailing, and you just, yeah. Still today, I have no clue what I'm doing half the time.
Well, and the crazy part is, like, obviously we've met before, right? So I know some of the details. Like, the first Tim Hortons you bought was one of the busier ones in Canada. So it's not just that you bought a Tim Hortons, like you bought like a really high functioning one. And how did that work out for you? Like, was there staffing issues? How did you get through that kind of in 2006, kind of when there was a labor shortage? How did you navigate through all of that as a young person?
Yeah, those were dark days, those 2006, 2007. But yeah, you worked harder and you did what you have to do. We did bring in temporary foreign workers in 2007, end of 2007. Okay. And they're still with me today. And the one lady, I basically tell her every day, like, she saved my life. Like, from the second they got here, our lives completely changed. And I could not have done it without them, because there was no one to hire. Mm-hmm. And you're right, we were busy. And if we wouldn't have had them, our sale, like, we wouldn't have done what we did.
Absolutely. So as a Tim Hortons owner, you're pretty involved in the business, right? Like, it's not just I write checks for this set payroll, right?
Oh,
like
I serve guests every day, still to this day. Yeah.
Like, you're in the drive-through?
They don't usually let me in there anymore. Okay. It's probably for the best, but I do serve guests. And if there's a lineup and I go to a store, yeah, I'll serve the line, go along, and yeah, I make a point of staying involved. Okay. So it's 13 years since you bought your first one-ish, right? You now own 7. Yes. So obviously the first one was successful. Is it as easy as once you're in with Tim Hortons, you're in, or is there like some business acumen that you've learned throughout that process that has allowed you to kind of keep buying? I wish it was simple, like you just did your job and Tim Hortons just rewarded you with another store, but that's not it at all. We had to learn the hard way. We didn't get a store we wanted to back in 2006, and it was because of our approach, and we're very honest and blunt people, so Dad didn't always jive with the big boys in Tim Hortons, so we had to learn how to, mind our I's, or dot our I's and cross our T's, and I kind of let my dad, I told him he wasn't allowed to come to meetings anymore, and
I know he's a farmer, right? Yes. So like, and most of those people in Tim Hortons wouldn't be farm kids, right? Like, that's business, like big city boys.
Yes, definitely the corporate people are definitely, did not come from the same roots that we did, but. So yeah, we had to learn the hard way, and we had to play the game, and it took some time for us to build a relationship with people, and you learn those things as you go, and like I said, you make mistakes, and yeah, I haven't looked back since.
So I guess looking at that, what have you learned? Like, how has your approach changed now? Like, your dad and you had kind of in the first one, right? Yeah. 7 Tim Hortons later, is your dad still as involved, or how has that process changed?
I would say 2 years into it, he backed off and probably fully retired, I would say about 2005, 2006. Okay. He would still come around. He likes to stir the soups or unload the trucks and things like that, but for the most part, he just stayed clear, and he enjoyed his life, because it was, that's why he did it. He didn't do it so that he could work harder. He put his time in already, so. Absolutely. Yeah. So
now let's look back, kind of go backwards a bit. So start a business with your dad. You grew up in small town Saskatchewan. It doesn't take a genius interviewer to realize that anybody that's had some success, especially at your level where there's 7 stores, plus we'll get into some of the other stuff you're into, that doesn't just happen. Like, there's work ethic involved with that. There's going to be, like, you're toiling to get that going. There's going to be nights where you barely sleep. There's going to be mornings where you're the first one there, night you're the last one there. Do you accredit that to kind of how you were raised and like that work ethic? I'm assuming you have that work ethic.
I hope I have a work ethic, yeah. No, I told this story the other day, but I would accredit everything to definitely to my parents. And this one instance in particular, I was about 11 or 12 and I had got horses, and my dad was like, nope, they're your problem. You have to do everything to them. And I had to take them to the vet to get immunized. And I said, Dad, can you nope, figure it out. And so I cursed and I got mad and probably was mad at him for a long time. And then so I made the appointment. I got money out of the bank. He made me back the truck up.
Well, how old were you?
Like 12 maybe.
And you're backing the truck up, okay? That's small town Saskatchewan.
You're allowed to do that.
Yeah, of course.
You're not allowed to do that, yeah. It took a lot of tries. Got the trailer hooked up, got the horses loaded, and he just drove me there. And I probably was still mad 2 weeks after the fact, but really that taught me that if I wanted something, I had to get it myself. And so from that point on, I did everything on my own. I didn't ask my parents. I mean, I asked them for permission for things, but if I wanted something, yeah, I had to go and get it myself.
So that drive you can attribute right back to how you were raised, right? So how do you see that now as a boss? Because that I see that struggle sometimes as the leaders where they have this work ethic. I mean, that's why you are where you are. But not every one of your employees is going to have that. So there's got to be a balance of kind of having the grace to accept your employees for not having the same drive, but also not allowing just pure laziness, right? So how is that? How have you navigated through that as a leader where you have a drive? Like if it was up to you, I'm sure all of your employees would be boom up here, right? And realistically, not all of your employees are that capable, right? So how have you navigated leading your people with that kind of a work ethic?
Well, I mean, it's a balance, and you take those people who aren't always the strongest, you put them in roles that suit them, because everyone needs a job and everyone needs an opportunity.
Yep.
And oftentimes those people will rise to the occasion, and it all depends on who you hire too, right? The pickier you are, those A people, I call them.
The type A, yeah.
Yeah, they will either make those people rise or they'll make those people fall to the side. And so you get more A's than you get C's. So that makes sense. So
absolutely. Have you learned that kind of then through the last few years? Like, has your hiring process changed? Has there been some flops in your background?
Yeah, I mean, we'll run short to not hire someone who we don't think is going to be the perfect fit, because they have to fit kind of within our family too, right? It's like the whole team is like a family, and they jive so well that if you throw someone in there that doesn't really fit, it just becomes it just topples the whole mountain, right? So they gotta be part of the family. That's what I call them. So.
Well, I can only imagine having not only a business, but when they're spread out throughout the city, that there's going to be more time for you going to each different location. Lots of different staff. Like, how many staff do you manage at this point?
We have over 320.
Yeah, like that's insane. That makes me break out in a cold sweat. So going back now, 300 and some employees, 7 locations. What does your days look like now? Like, how does it start?
I start my days, I get up before 5, I baby brush my teeth, and I run out the door. I don't look like this when I go to work. And I try to hit every store, try to put out whatever fires I need to put out, get to my office about 7, have something to eat, answer all the emails that I missed from the night before, and then just go into my day, from meetings to stopping at stores to doing up schedules or navigating holidays. I have 18 managers, so someone's always on holidays trying to figure out that, and dealing with the government. I deal a lot with them and all those good things.
So with 18 managers, obviously that didn't just happen. Like you've kind of grown the business to all the locations you have. Do you attribute a lot of the success you have as a leader now and also a family person to having a good management team? And how did you navigate through that?
It took a while for us to figure out how to hire someone that was really good for that position. But my managers, I think, are the best in the chain. And I could not do it without them. I have a GM and she's on holidays right now. And I think I might just drown any day now because I need her back. But they're the ones that run the stores. I really have no clue anymore how they do it. So they're really the bosses. And of course I have an awesome husband who's very supportive. You wanted me to mention him?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure we'll mention him a few more times.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, you've got the 7 businesses. You alluded to the fact that you check emails in the morning that you missed the night before. And I know from previous conversations that you have a rule that after a certain time you don't check emails anymore. And that's partly because you're a busy businesswoman, but you're also a dedicated family person. So how has that family part been with, I mean, you're not checking emails after what time, and like, how has that been a process for you, jumping from business to family?
Oh, I had no balance at the beginning, like absolutely nothing. And I actually will give this to my friend. My best friend now, she taught me how to have balance and taught me to take time for myself, and that it was okay to let the business go a little bit. And yeah, I do try to not answer emails and deal with things like that when I'm at home. We have supper together every night around the table like I used to. And because those are always good memories, right?
Absolutely.
Like growing up on a farm, we had hired men and all, you know, family supper was really important. So yeah, I try to keep those things going, and hopefully my kids will see me today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, so.
No, and like a lot of the entrepreneurs that I've interviewed, and it's not just a Saskatchewan thing, but it's definitely prevalent in Saskatchewan. I mean, and you're proof of it. Like, we're extremely busy. We have a lot of balls in the air. But family has always been important, and I know it is for me, like in terms of my personal scheduling. Like, I schedule my family into my work schedule because I want to make sure that I don't double book myself accidentally. I want to make sure I'm there. You have 3 kids now, yes. And I know you didn't just poof have 3 kids. Like, you had 3 kids in the midst of it. Like, you're growing your business, and I mean, I'm giving away too much of the story, but I know that you were full on pregnant when you started one Tim Hortons. You had the baby, and then you started another Tim Hortons. Like, it was like back to back. So, like, looking back at that, was there any what kind of got you through that? Was it just, like we said earlier, you just kind of fly by the seat of your pants, or was that the work ethic, or was that just it had to be done, so you did it?
Well, I mean, it had to be done. There was no option. But I was lucky to have a husband who was willing to sacrifice his career to grow our business, and he stayed home with our first 2 in like 1.5, I guess, because we got a nanny halfway through the second. He would bring her to me when it was time to eat, and he would take her away, and he would spend his mornings looking after her instead of going to work. So, I mean, that's how it got done. You're right. I opened a store 3 weeks after I had my first child, so there wasn't a maternity leave. There wasn't an opportunity to relax. It was just get her done. So.
I mean, I'm a man, and 3 weeks after our firstborn, I was still shell-shocked. I don't think I could have done much. So, I mean, we talked a bit about your husband now and the family and the nanny. So, we're now 7 Tim Hortons deep. Your husband was an engineer, I believe, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
He is no longer an engineer, right? So how is the family business kind of like, was he always involved in Tim Hortons, or did he have his own thing, and now you guys have kind of moved into this new venture? And why don't you tell us what the new venture is?
Yeah. He tried to do the engineering thing, and then after our second, I just needed help, so he came and helped me. And then we kind of just figured it was best for us to kind of find our own things. And so I always made a joke that if I wasn't having a baby or opening a Tim Hortons, I was bored. So I was bored one day, and we decided we were going to look for something else to do. And he found the Mr. Mike's Steakhouse franchise. And we applied for that. And we applied for many others, but they were the best fit for us and who we are. And so, yeah, he does that now. He has Mr. Mike's Steakhouse on A Street. We're a year open now, and we're about to open our second in Martinsville. So he's about to open his second in Martinsville.
Exactly. Well, I go to Mr. Mike's regularly. It's an easy spot right in the middle of the city, easy to have some business lunches with. And I was sitting there before the interview, and I was kind of saying, hey, I'm interviewing the owner. And this girl was like, oh, Danny, she's the greatest. Like, they're the greatest couple. Blah, blah. And she was like, I could tell that she believed what she was saying, right? So, and I suspect that that's kind of attributed to your success. Now, I know Mr. Mike's, and I know a bit of the background. Your husband wanted to own like a small town bar. Was he like a small town kid too?
He's a small town kid too, yeah. And his dream was always to own like this bar where, you know, like the towel over your shoulder, kind of cheer situation where he gets to talk to the guys having a bad day and like buy him a beer and things like that. Nothing like Mr. Mike's at all. But
I was going to say, so that's all it takes? I just got to go to Mr. Mike's and tell him I'm having a bad day?
And even at the beginning when we were like deep into working and just trying to get it open and we were really busy, I would be like running the kitchen and running the expo line, and he'd just be sitting at the bar and like watching everything going on.
Of course.
And, it is, yeah, it's his dream, and it was what he wanted to do. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. So where do you see yourself going? Obviously, you're opening one in Martinsville. Do you see Tim Hortons plateauing for you? Like, are you done at 7, or is the goal to get more? And how about Mr. Mike's? Like, or anything else? Like, what are you and your husband's aspirations now?
Well,
because it seems to me like you've accomplished a lot. So now, like, what are you guys going for
as an
now?
entrepreneur, you know, you're never, I don't know, I feel I'm never satisfied. I'd take 10 more Tim Hortons if they gave them to me. Like, I'm always looking for something else, and I get bored easily, and as soon as I kind of conquer something, then I'm like, okay, now I got to move on to something else. And the sky is the limit. I don't think I'll ever, my husband's just kind of getting into real estate now and things like that, and so we'll see where that goes.
That's my favorite part
the
about it.
banks love me, right?
Yeah, of course, because you're always there.
I'm always asking for money. Come on.
And like, let's touch on that quick. So, I mean, I remember my first mortgage, and that was like a stressor, right? And then you slowly realize that their vested interest is to get you money if they can, right? So how has the banking been for you? Because obviously, like, the first Tim Hortons was probably a different cost than now, right? Now that they're established, have you built a good relationship with a banker? Like, how has that gone? I
mean, I definitely have, a good relationship. We deal with 2 different banks at the time, one for Tim Hortons, one for Mr. Mike's.
Okay.
And it's a small town, like, I'm a small town mentality. I actually hate debt. And I remember our first couple of Tim Hortons, like, I always said to my dad, no, we got to pay cash. Like, I don't want to have a loan. And now I'm like, loan. Who wants to give me money? Because we're just growing so fast that, we can't. So, I think the banks like me. We talk on a regular basis.
Well, I'm sure the banks love you. I mean, let's go back to Tim Hortons a bit, and I'm sure this will touch into Mr. Mike's as well. Tim Hortons has always had a community focus, whether it's Timbits hockey, other initiatives, Roll Up the Rim, their camps, right? Like, there's always an opportunity. I've come to find that Saskatchewan's community is really unique, and it's a benefit for an entrepreneur. So now that you've been involved, let's touch base first on how is it as a franchise owner with those initiatives that Tim Hortons does? Like, is that forced on you, or is that a percentage? How does that work?
Well, Tim Hortons does take a percentage of our sales that goes to marketing, and I think that's important because then everyone stays the same, right? Mm-hmm. And we support those big projects like the hockey and the soccer. And Tim Hortons is completely like children-based. Their camps are like a 5-star resort. If you or me were to go to them, we're like, holy, this is like the best thing ever. Yeah. Best thing since sliced bread. But so we do those things, but you have to be passionate about them, and you have to do them well, and they're a great organization to work with. So, and then we do other things not with the Tim Hortons. I'm really involved in the community schools on the west side of the city. Okay. So we do lunch programs and breakfast programs at some of the schools, and that's just something that we do at our stores, right? Have you
always done that, or has that kind of come as you've gotten a bit more leverage?
I think we started in 2007.
Okay.
We also give to the Friendship Inn from our Giant Tiger location, and it's those are things that I am passionate about. So, and I like doing that because it's more giving back to the community who supports me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And now I'm getting big into the Children's Hospital Foundation. So that's my new passion, is working with them, and they're also a 5-star organization. So.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely, and that's kind of incredible part of Saskatchewan. This, like, watching the Children's Hospital Foundation, kind of how they grow. And I mean, my business, New Fab Building Products, we support them quite a bit as well, and that's always been key. And it's not like business genius, but it doesn't take much to realize when you give, you get, right? Like, so Timbits, both of my boys played Timbits soccer. And after every game, they just had to flip up their shirt, and it said Timbits or whatever, and they got their free drink. And then, of course, they're on the backseat, please go to Tim Hortons, get this drink. Then mom and dad buy the drinks too, right? So, like, there's some symbiotic relationships within working in the community as well as giving back to the community. And obviously, you found that to be successful for you.
To me, it's more about helping the people that need it the most. And I can't handle watching. Now that you're a parent, you can't handle watching children suffer. And there's those community schools. They rely on our donation because they don't get funding to feed the children properly. So it's crucial. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said one thing in our last discussion, and it stuck with me. And it was the question was raised: what would you tell your 19-year-old self now? Like, the idea, if I only knew now what I knew then, right? Yeah. Or knew then what I knew now. That's probably it. Looking back, what would you tell your 19-year-old self now as a mom of 3, owner of 7 Tim Hortons, almost 2 Mr. Mikes, very involved in the community? What would you tell yourself with the experience?
That's a tough question. I didn't know how to answer it then. I still don't know if I know how to answer, but it takes hard work to build a business. You can't, and you need good support. And I can't do it by myself. It's not me. It's not Danny who built the Tim Hortons. It was all of my team members, all my family, all my friends, everyone that helps you. And you have to check your arrogance at the door too. You don't know everything. I still don't know everything. I'll never know everything. And I think the biggest thing is that you have to find a balance, because you don't want to let your other relationships suffer just because you want to run a good business. And I'm still finding that balance. I still don't have the answer to that, but yeah, now that my kids are older and they realize mom's not around as much, then the guilt gets to. So yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you kind of alluded it too, and not to put words in your mouth, but you kind of said like nothing is owed to you, right? Like, and from your story, I can tell that you never ever felt like somebody owed you something. You worked for yours.
Yeah, that's true. You're not entitled to anything. You need to earn it, and you have to earn it the hard way. There is no magic secret to anything. It's just hard work, perseverance, and yeah, get it done. The world doesn't owe you anything, so.
That's the truth. Thank you so much, Danny, and thank you for watching this episode of Chamber on Tap. My name is Evan Drisner, your host. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.